Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NIBT's live webinar on evolution of construction arena and industry's future. Okay, so we'll get started. So basically, though, the background about the evolution of construction arena and industry is really trying to understand how technology moves. Sandesh, thank you. Thank you for you never heard me before. Thank you for letting me know. So we basically want to understand how the construction evolves, so we can forecast how we can see and how we can prep ourselves in careers, in businesses, in the future, in next 20 days or 20 years, not 20 days, but 20 years, right? And it is important for us to know, because if we act upon it now and we prep ourselves, it is a long curve and it will take some time for us to get there, right? So this is the whole background about NIBT, right? We kind of are formulated, National Institute of Building Technology especially is formulated on the concept of how we can be ready for the future trends of construction. So it is important to understand what are the market movements and what happens, what are the technologies out there, how are the industries moving, what are the industry leaders doing. So this webcast is going to be an online webcast for months to come. We'll continue to put out new material. So if you have signed up for this course, right, we want to do this courses only for this webcast, only for the people who have taken the courses. So the whole point of this free course is not only just to take a course, right? The idea is to understand, to be a part of a community, a discussion forum going forward. So if you have not registered for any of our courses, you might not get access to any of our structured webinars going forward. So I highly encourage everyone to go get access to our webinars, get access to our courses. There's some of the free ones. You still will get some webcasts that are part of the free courses, but it is only structured for a community. So we can open up discussions, we can open communications. Okay. So the idea is, our goal today is to go over the 7 agenda topics, right? So we'll be talking about how did we get here, how the construction industry is triggered, how does it move, right? What are the present trends of the construction industry? How is Indian GDP or the economic zones connected to the construction industry? How important is construction industry? How important it is for Indian growth and things along those lines. Then we'll try to understand what are the policy changes that government is doing to understand or to react to the future needs of Indian population, infrastructure needs, and things along those lines, right? So that's kind of, we'll jump into the radar. And basically with the new policies and the new changes in the system, it is potentially disrupting the construction market, where we need new management styles, when we need new structures. And this is nothing new, right? If you think about any developed countries around, this is the same path they have achieved, right? At some point they had a structured policy change, which kind of triggered a new generation of construction management systems within the country. And that's how they're able to maintain the productivity growth by doing something better. So that's where we'll get into the item 6 and 7 to some extent. So let's understand how is the development in the construction industry, right? I mean, I think we have seen everything is a construction technology, right? So we have to understand what is construction technology and how does it move. What is construction technology? Was chisel and hammer, right, in Egyptian days of 25 BC, was it a construction technology? Yeah, it was, right? If you really think about it, guys who knew how to use chisel and hammer were top notch. They knew the technology, and they were hired just because they knew how to use a tool, and they were very, very good at it. The point I'm saying is that although the technology, we keep saying it technology, but technology in a relevant time period could change. Today, we won't call chisel and hammer as a technology, right? It's just a given. Everyone should understand what it is and how it is used, right? But in a given day, back in the day, it was critical. So that's how you have to understand construction technology. It solves a problem. It is there to solve a problem. So let's understand what problems is the construction technology supposed to solve. So let's jump back into understanding how cities evolve, right? In a modern world, or back in the day, what is a city, right? So like, if you have to put in perspective, cities are really part of three things. You have people, we have infrastructure, and technology can be considered as a part of communication, policy, or anything that connects people to the infrastructure. Right? We need infrastructure to talk, so we use communication portals. We need roads, so we use so everything about infrastructure and people is what cities are, and how we link people to infrastructure, right? So anything, these are the three main ingredients of it. Nothing goes beyond it. It doesn't matter which era you are in the time zone. So what happened in early dwellings, right? So we, if you think about, if you have read a little bit of history, you'll understand, right? We, nomads would walk around, and they were struggling to get food, clothing, and shelter being the most important necessity. So the easiest tool that they found was chisel and hammer, and they started carving caves, right? What was the problem with that time zone, right? So once they started getting better, they realized that there is limited locations, and access to the supply of water was very limited in this case. They had to walk a lot. So they started realizing what is a new construction technology, right? And that's when we got medieval technologies and things like that. We can look at wood construction, tongue and groove joints, and we saw all these technologies coming across. And then suddenly we moved out of caves, and we started constructing closer to rivers and resources and agricultural land. We started becoming more civilized, right? We started developing a civilized community. And the idea was to solve the problem, which was location restriction, right? So we basically, by adapting a new technology of using wood and ropes and other tongue and groove joints, and you can think of all those technologies, mass construction, which is like building out of clay and things along those lines. It helped us get to the location which we solved the problem. At that point, what we realized is, as the communities were developing, they realized is it was flooding the cities, and everyone had to go out. This is the time where we saw construction revolution, right? We saw another trend in construction revolution, which was material technology. We started seeing concrete, we started seeing steel, and all these technologies came to the rescue. Why? Because the problem was the existing technology at that point, which was wood, couldn't go up. We couldn't put too many floors up, so it was restricting on how many people we can put per square feet, for example. And basically, with the steel and concrete, what happened, it quickly changed the approach, and we could go more vertical, right? So that was the construction technology during industrial era, right? So it was a material technologies that invented the way construction moved today. And this is what we're following today. We are in that era. We are still from the industrial revolution. We are using concrete and steel, and it's kind of there, right? Concrete hasn't upgraded since then. Steel hasn't been upgraded since then. The material has always been there. So now the challenges are very different. Now the challenges are, we have limited space, we get it, but we have to start using it efficiently, because we have reached the peak of what materials can do. We're wasting too much material. There's time management issues. There's the cities are getting crowded, so it has to be more effective, efficiently managed. The construction projects are getting delayed. The resources are getting less and less. People are, you see less and less tradesmen. No one wants to be part of the construction world anymore. So the tradesmen who would actually work on the carpenters and things are getting less and less. So we have to make use of what is remaining. So the only way we can do that is making them efficient. So does it stop here? How do we solve this problem, right? And that's where we can see the trends in this technology moving, right? So we can see these problems, as you can see on my chart. It's basically what is happening today, right? We got all these delays, overruns, quality compromises. It's all over the place, and it's every single space. We can look around and we can blame someone, but it is all over the place. It's all part of the piece of every single piece. So, like, this is a very good chart I came across, and it is more relevant in this picture, is because this graph is literally, I think, a couple of months back, economist.com put out this graph, and it kind of speaks everything about the construction productivity market around the world and how it is happening, right? So you can see, like even in US, you can see the declining leaders. You can see how inefficient things are. We can think about, wait a minute, we got all these technologies. Why United States is not progressing? Because it is still adapting it. Whatever the changes and the changes were made is because someone saw this graph 5 years and 10 years back, and it said, wait a minute, we need some revolutionary technologies to move this graph into the outperformers or accelerators, right? The point is, if you are a staffing person or a country, you really want your graph to be on a top right corner, right? You want the wages to be higher, and you want your country to be performing in construction world extensively well, right? Now, if you are a contractor or someone, right, who is worried about the cost is an issue, then you want somewhere on the bottom right side where you have extremely efficient, but yet the labor costs are lower. And you can see China and India fall there, right? You can see many of the countries fall there. United States is very highly paid, but yet not productive because they're still not there yet, right? With the technology curve is still not there yet. No one is there. So on the top right corner, you barely see anyone. You can see few countries moving there, right? You can see moving countries. But if you really think about the amount of money is spent, the circle kind of shows the amount of money that is spent in construction, right? You can see China and United States are spending amazing amount of capital for new construction, where you can see small circles and small dots. They don't move the markets as much. So as the spending goes up, it becomes more difficult for the industry to move. What is happening, or what will happen in India, is in the last couple of years and how we go forward in the next decade or two, you will see a significant increase in the spending. And you probably hear government talk about it, and it doesn't matter, but it is you can see that the construction focus, doesn't matter railway or infrastructure or roads or whatever, there's a huge amount of spending coming here, which means you can see where China is and where India is right now. And we want to be somewhere close to China in the spending, but we cannot be like, you can see that China sometimes have, is on a very low labor rate, right? So the cost per labor productivity is, we still not, like India is not even productive, nor is paying more wages. So either we have to get to a graph. So this was a very important graph, I think, to understand where we want to be as a government, as industry, and everywhere else. So what does it do? How do we solve this problem? It's very simple, right? We have digital technology. It's nothing new. We all have seen it. We just have to understand that there is no other way. It is going to change the industry going forward. It is not a question of if it will change, it is a question of when it will change. And this is where National Institute of Building Technology is pushing the boundaries so that we can revolutionize and make these technologies available, make these tools available, make the new construction management procedures, financial management procedures, with the new movement in the shift of construction management available to everyone in India. So we can move this graph to a top right corner where we want to be, right? So we start moving it. Digital technology is a key. Nothing around here, if you see our code, is changing. So the only way we can move forward is by adopting something new, innovation. So what happens, right? We can see these tools being implemented everywhere in the world. This is not an old technologies. The point cloud scanner, the drones, the BIM, and all these things are nothing new. But yet they're fairly new. If you really think about, even when US started adopting it, it is around 2011. The commercialization of it is just now coming, like 2015, 2016. Like last 2-3 years, you have seen a bigger market cap for it. But yeah, you've been hearing it for 2001, but very few people are using it. But now it's getting mainstream, and you'll see the graphs move very quickly, because when it becomes mainstream, the entire country has caught up to the momentum of using the technology and starts pushing towards more productive development. So that's some of the technologies. There is a video I want all of you to watch, and this is I'll play it so you can understand the perspective of where I'm coming from. So let me play this video.
I request Chetan Mogal He's the CEO of BIM Engineering US, LLC US.
Good evening, everyone. One of the patterns that is becoming very evident in this presentation that I see is push to make technology a mainstream application, especially in construction. Mainstream is really the key word here. I want to share my story as it relates to such technologies, its applications, and the future.
So I'll start.
In my career, I had an opportunity to study in a top construction management institutions and grow to become a top executive in the top construction management organization in the United States. We were early adopters of construction soft technologies. We were closely connected to companies' research and development teams, providing mainstream feedbacks when testing their products. What we learned was technology inherently is very consistent. And the problem was human integration and applications by the humans. As we continue this journey, to solve this problem, the industry is moving into automations, machine learning, AI, which will replace humans because that's where the errors are happening. Where I'm going with this is, in order to make cities smart, we have to first learn how to build smart. In order to build smart, we need to have smart, skilled professionals. So we have to go bottom up, because no matter what we push downstream, if there is the same process, same infrastructure, same people, the output would be the same. I'll quickly go through the presentation. I'll go to the last slide. We are a young country, right? So India is a young country with 87% of population under the age of 45. It is a young country. It has a tremendous working potential, and the demand and supply curve is just phenomenal. There is a huge demand and supply is very limited, right? This is potential. This is potential for the country. Now let's talk about the education system, the process that we have currently. We take 4 to 5 years to finish fundamental education. Then we go to some technical school, learn a tool or a software and spend another year learning a tool. Then we spend about 1 to 3 years perfecting the skill, because in order to become a skill, you have to spend about 10,000 hours working at the tool. And that's where we become skilled labor. So we spend 6 to 8 hours of a journey becoming skilled laborers. So fundamental education, engineering schools, architecture schools, and we all know when we graduate from the fundamental education, it does not match the real world experience. We get the tool, we learn a tool, we graduate from the school, we work for 3-4 years, the tool is outdated, technology is outdated, we go back to school, learn a new tool or upgrade a new tool, go back to working, perfect the tool in 3 years. The cycle keeps on going. We never leave the skilled labor mentality. This is the barrier of our system. At age of 25 is typically when we all hit the working force. And by age of 45, the growth from 25 to 45, we are doing very well. Excellent progress, 20% raise, whatever we're doing. At age of 45, our graph starts to flatten. We run horizontal. And age of 65, the graph starts going down. The point I'm trying to make here is we have 20 years to make the impact that will last 35 years. So take these 3 things in perspective. Young country, we only have 20 years to make an impact. So 2030, 2035, what happens? With the skilled labor mentality, we start having a problem. At 45, we have a stagnant economy, right? We can't grow because we have a stagflation, or we are not learning new tools and the technologies are getting outdated. And slowly by age of 65, we get into a serious problem. So 85% of people 20 years from now, if we are skilled laborers, the skill might be outdated. What do we do? Learn a new skill? It becomes very difficult. So this is our concern that we have right now. So first question I ask everyone is, have you seen an entrepreneur without a skill? Most of the time people will say, no, I don't remember any entrepreneur that has no skills, right? The second question I ask is, have you seen a skilled person not become an entrepreneur? We see it all the time. A skilled person does not necessarily become an entrepreneur. So why are we learning skills, right? Why are we learning skills? We should be pushing entrepreneurship.
So I think this gets into more of an entrepreneur later, but I think you all understand the perspective you're trying to make, right? And I think that's a good segue into the next slide, which is, how does this change from an Indian construction perspective, or from an Indian GDP perspective, right? So if you really think about what is Indian GDP, the largest contributor to Indian GDP, What is the largest contributor to Indian GDP? Does anyone know? You can put it in the chat. Let's see how many. What is the largest contributor to Indian GDP? Okay. I don't have any chats, but obviously we all know it is agriculture, right? Agriculture is probably exactly, yes, Vivek, you are absolutely right. Agriculture is probably 40-50% given on a given year or given day. It is the largest contributor to the GDP, and everything else kind of goes down. What is the second largest contributor to GDP after agriculture? Anyone knows? It would be construction. Right? It can go between healthcare and construction, go back and forth, but as on a given day, it's construction mostly. That's the second largest. So you can see from 40 directly to 8 is where the contribution of construction or real estate comes in. Right. So it is the second largest, and it's already on my slide. I didn't realize that. So item number 3, right? So the second largest contributor to Indian GDP. The idea is you can see how dependent is India on agriculture. And we know, depending on the weather and everything else, it kind of makes, on a given day, you can have a bad year or good year. So it's very dependent. So why is the country, that's why you can see the current government spending too much in construction. Why? Because we want to make sure the second largest contributors trigger is not 8%, it is close to 15-20%, which is kind of significant. So if you have a bad year in agriculture, we can do something with construction. So it's extremely important. But how do we do this? How do we move in construction productivity when we have very inefficient construction? You saw the graph earlier from economists, right? We can increase the spending, but by increasing the spending doesn't mean we are getting productive. We're just going to lose a lot of money in productivity, which kind of is negative to the economy. So we have to grow from both perspectives, from GDP perspective, as from a spending perspective, but also from technology and being efficient perspective. So here's kind of what we did a research for last couple of years, and this is kind of what we've realized is where we lack, right? And this is kind of Indian market and where we see from 4 years from now, 5 years from now, a decade from now, you can see the amount of workforce demand that is needed, right? The amount of contribution of construction revenues that are going to come to the table. And you can see how the target of 2030 is go from 8% to 2013. So this is what the government targets are today. So we tried to increase by at least 3/4 of what we are now, right? And pretty significant improvement if you can understand how much money needs to be spent in. But you can see the bottom side, right? You can see how the total demand and the supply curve is so completely out, right? If you want 50 people right now, there are only 10 people. If you're in construction industry, you realize how difficult it is to get skilled people. It is very difficult. So the idea is we need those skilled people in a more professional mentality setup, right? So we understand that the supply and demand is there for us to catch it, and there is a huge opportunity for us to make this happen. So, and this brings us from a government perspective. What they're doing is they're trying to make sure that there are some regulations, policies, investments. So they're trying to connect it from all the sides. So this is where RERA comes in. How many of you might have heard about RERA? So it kind of doesn't understand. We think it's for developers, it's from this, but at the end we have to realize it is for all of us to understand what is RERA going to do to the construction industry, right? Yes, we can see that, yes, it is going to protect consumers. It is going to protect a couple of things. But what is RERA, right? So Real Estate Regulation and Development Act of 2016. And it was predominantly launched to basically make sure that the commitment made by developers on construction projects are met. Otherwise, they will be penalized. To basically make sure that so here is a slide. That is a good slide. And you can read this slide later, but really the two things, right? It's basically making sure that the project management of construction is accountable. The people who are building are accountable for time, they're accountable for money. Otherwise, they'll be penalized. So time is, if they promise someone they will be delivering something, they have to deliver in time. There is no option. We cannot have a promise date of 2015 and 2017 the construction is still going. That is not going to happen, right? You can see the top, you know, so basically the top right corner, right? You'll say refund money in case of default. If you default on those days, government wants you to refund all the money that you took from investors, and no one wants to do that. It's a very dangerous sign. So it's going to be very important for all the developers to meet the commitment. Now we can all say they can change the commitments. If they're saying we're going to take 2 years, now they'll just start saying it will take 4 years. So that way they don't have to commit to a specific date. The idea is when everyone starts competing, at the end, if we are going to buy a product, we want to buy a product that is going to be given to us sooner because we're already spending money. So we want the product to be delivered sooner. So extending the timeline is not going to benefit any developer from a competitive standpoint. So everyone has to finish the projects in a timely manner. Right now, we can barely finish projects. I don't think even 90% of the projects in India probably are getting delayed, right? And that is very, very optimistic. I think 99% of the projects would get delayed. So the second part of it is about financial, right? They want to make sure the money that is put in, which is on the left slide, you can see the fourth item, which is deposit 70% of amount realized from allottees, meaning investor or the developer has to put his own capital in an escrow account, for lack of better words, and make sure money is there until the project is built, which means the project has to be built. The money is there. The reason why projects were getting delayed is because the money was put into different places, and until that money was taken out from a project, it would have been a difficulty to continue the existing project. And because the money was scattered, the projects were going to move. So what one of these government is put it in a pot, and that project funds are there. So if everything is funded, right, the basic benefit for a developer is to just get the project done. So there is an incentive for the developer to finishing the projects on time. But question is how, right? How do we do that? And that's really the goal of RERA and how it is going to disrupt the market from how the construction happens. It's not really going to change the delivery style, or it's not going to. It has changing the financial stuff from a policy and law rail. It's going to change the construction ground up, because in order to achieve timely construction, in order to manage construction better, it is extremely important, right? So these are the standards. It's extremely important to use technologies to simulate things, to manage things, so that we need people who can efficiently manage. We need professionals who understand financials of construction and how construction moves, material dynamics, and so many things, quality, tendering, everything is going to change, and we'll need better professionals who understand how to deploy a project in timely fashion and within the financial budgets. That is going to be the key. And this is nothing new for India, right? Everywhere you see these days, you can see most of the countries making, like, for example, BIM is one of such technologies, making it mandatory. And that's how they are disrupting their markets. Everything is mandatory. And it becomes a policy level mandatory issue. So this is a matter of time. It is going to be part of Indian mandatory systems after RERA. So we have to prep ourselves for that. We have to make sure there is a supply. Right now, they cannot make it mandatory because there is not enough supply, right? So why should you do this online training and courses, and how it is structured, right? Let me give you a quick background of this. But before I get into this, I wanted to open this floor for questions regarding what we discussed today. So if you have any questions, please go on and put them in the chat. If you come across any questions, just let me know. But right now, what I want to do is direct everyone to our web portal, where you can see all the required information for. And I think I posted a link in the blog, but here it is. Let me know if you can see it right now. Okay, so that's our web portal, and you can go to the e-learning website. The idea of our program is not to just deploy a program and hope that someone will watch a video and finish their curriculum, right? The idea is really to make sure that we connect, we build a community. After you finish a course, we want to make sure there's a continued education within the program. So it's not just a one-stop shop. Once you finish the program, we want to make sure there are new materials that are coming and provided to all the students. It's a community, so we continue to open a discussion forum so we can share our experiences and connect with the corporate client, connect with corporate leaders across the globe, right? We don't want to stick to India. We want to learn from every single country out there that is trying to do. So our goal is to make sure once the courses are deployed and the students are a part of this community, we continue to build on top of it. So it's not you take a course, you learn it, you go out and don't call us again or don't talk to us again. The idea is it's a continued education portal. And that's why we strive. So even if you take a class and it finishes in 2 weeks, the idea is within the program, every time there is a development, we'll get you involved. We'll create new posts, we'll create new discussion boards. So once you're in there as our community member for the rest of your life. That's how we want to pursue this program. Right? That is an effort and that is a commitment we want to put in. So that's where the NIBT's online program is visioned, and we want to develop on this. And it is going to take all of us to build this GDP up. It is going to take every single person, not just government, to start putting money out, right? So that's an effort we are trying to make on our side. If you have any other questions, we can go to. I'm finalizing the presentation now, so I don't have any more topics or slides to show. So that should be it for today.